Well, thank you very much, Jackie. And dear colleagues, I start by thanking all of you. I think this was, in fact, an amazing event. I thank those who participated in all discussions. We took 2 days to go deep into the subjects. And I think we managed to have a debate that I personally think was incredibly rich. And there is an incredible amount of information, of material, of thoughts. And so it will be very difficult, I would say impossible, to synthesize in reasonable time all the depth of the discussions and of the remarks. In fact, we had, and just to go through some of the debates, I think we had key note speeches that were absolutely remarkable, amazing. Professor Mario Monti, Professor Joseph Stiglitz, Professor Carlota Perez, they have shown us how, in fact, the economy and globalization is set up for divergences, concentrating growth and attracting innovation and talent physically in certain places and socially in certain groups of people. So in fact, the divergency is there and it has increased over time. And on top of these asymmetric trends, we also all witnessed the asymmetric shocks which different places suffer from, different people suffer from. It was COVID, it was previously to COVID, it was the financial crisis, then energy price shocks, and they affect us all with the different levels in the different places. More recently, we have another major asymmetric shock with the dreadful problem of the inflow in Europe of the refugees from this terrible crisis and this terrible war. So in face of these asymmetric trends and the continuing stream of asymmetric shocks, we need, in fact, asymmetric policies that correct it. Otherwise, it will be endless, it will break. Europe, and we heard it, didn't probably not lead in the digital revolution, but Europe has gained a lot of credibility and commitment to take our vision in relation to climate, in the relation to digital revolution, and in the practice, in the actual implementation of equity and democracy. And we have heard, and it was nice to hear it, that Europe is a model, even for those that for a while consider themselves the leaders in democracy. This discussion on asymmetries and the need to counter them was, I think, very well reflected, not only in these broad visions that were brought to us by the keynote speakers, but then with the specific examples and the testimony of the first panel, the first session. So it became evident how essential cohesion policy has been to keep Europe together throughout its history, and how vital this policy is to manage the present and steer the future. And even this morning, we heard the strong support and very rich speeches from the presidents, both of the European Commissioner, Ursula von der Leyen, and from the European Parliament. Cohesion policy was described as the silent strength of our European Union and the regions as the silent engines of growth. Both presidents encouraged us to go local, means move down, go to the places, to deepen our territorial roots. They also urged us to speed up our programming, in particular President von der Leyen. And after that, Minister Giraud, representing the Council presidency, recalled the important contribution of cohesion, in fact, to our democracies, with all its experience, practical experience. To counter discontent, we need to give hope. And in many places, the investments from cohesion policy are the hope of a better future. In the breakout on Smarter Europe, we heard how the recent crises have served as a kind of wake-up call for Europe. To be resilient, regions must have a more diversified, a more competent, a more innovative economy. But for innovation to be solid, it has to be, in fact, locally rooted, namely through smart specialization strategies and all the other elements that we just heard in the previous panel. So in the other session, on the breakout, on a more social and inclusive Europe, we were reminded that cohesion policy is about people. The European promise that regions have a future, that all Europeans should not be excluded due to the place where they were born, the place where they live, be it a big city or a small one, or countryside. They should still have access to quality jobs and quality public services. This is the basis of democracy. This requires investment, but it also requires reforms, including, and we heard this, reforms in people's mindset. It requires also to build capacity of local administrations to meet needs, and working with social partners and civil society. And all this calls on a lot of know-how to do it. In the breakout on a Europe closer to citizens, we heard that the policy will need to adapt in the coming years, becoming simpler, more streamlined, more easy to develop and to deep the local roots. The policy has to show concrete changes on citizens' daily life, the cleaner water in their taps, the trams and trains they ride, the jobs they get, the education they get for their children. This is the heart of cohesion policy, because all Europeans must feel they matter and that their regions matter. In the Green Deal and Just Transition, as well as in the digitalization and innovation sessions, we heard so much about cohesion policy and the potential of the digital and green to build a better future. And that means greener and more innovative future. This is the future. So getting rid of fossil fuels was, and we knew it, and we had set it as such, a problem of survival of the planet. It was a climate problem. But now, even more than before, we recognize how much it is, in fact, also a geopolitical one, a survival element. And this gives a renewed sense to the urgency to the climate agenda. The twin green and digital transitions bring many, or may bring many win-wins. They have the potential to bring jobs everywhere, as demonstrated by several of the participants, provided there is leadership, institutional competence, administrative capacity, education and skills, we just heard it, and the whole goal of a society sharing these targets, sharing this vision, sharing this objective. There is a risk, in fact, of a growing innovation divide. And the segments of the divide were very explicitly said, I think it was by Dario just a couple of minutes ago. Innovation is complex and requires a critical mass of actors, best brought together at the right territorial level. But we need also to know how to make this transfer from knowledge into the economy, and we heard a lot of examples about it. Breaking these divides may be key to a new regional paradigm, where in fact teleworking with proper connectivity enables us to move jobs from over-congested cities to the high-quality lifestyle of small towns and regions that are not completely overloaded with traffic, with pollution, and with a lot of stress. Now, we need to filter everything that we have heard, and we have such a rich and valuable discussion that it will take time to absorb everything and put everything together. But I will try anyway to take a couple of takeaways. And what should be our next steps? The key observation, as we go forward into the future, I would say that in fact, we just realized that cohesion is not an option, nor can it be an afterthought. Cohesion is the cement that holds our European house together, and more so. Cohesion has to reunite and sustain Europe's convergence machine, boosting productivity and innovation also in lagging regions, and thus in Europe as a whole. It needs to be at the core of the European Union unique model of the social market economy. We can do this by working together, and I would select, in fact, these four practical steps. First, we must get solid quality programs up and running as soon as possible. We have funding, but there is no good wind if we don't know where we want to head. So cohesion programs matter more than ever before. They matter for a recovery that is even across the European Union. They matter for a green and digital transition, which in fact manages also these regions that suffer more in this transition, that in fact they are not forgotten, and we just refer to just transition fund areas. They matter in a world of demographic change, and in particular Europe suffering from serious demographic change, and it puts new challenges for public administrations. Ignoring these risks and challenges and having this temptation of using cohesion funds as if a routine budget support in routine operations without this strategic focus is an enormous risk for the success of the policy and for the success of all of us. High-quality programs need to be aligned with existing policy frameworks, of course, but they have to be designed bearing in mind the diversity of regions we are faced with, and in close cooperation with local partners and stakeholders, in fact, to activate a solid convergence machine. So from here, I take quality and speed. And this brings me to my second step. As we move forward, let us think territorially and encourage others to do the same. This means a sensitivity to the different needs of the different areas. We heard over and over again, one size doesn't fit all. Deepening the roots of innovation in every region and tackling, in particular, the risk of brain drain. Implementing a just climate transition at the local level. We are doing it. Let's share experiences. Let's build on this. Developing a long-term vision for rural areas with strengthened urban and rural links and promoting smaller and intermediate cities and towns that can really play a crucial role anchoring some development engine in the most remote or rural areas or depopulated areas. Meeting the needs of specific regions from the outermost regions to regions stuck in what we called in the report the development gaps and the development traps. We must make full use of all available tools, territorial instruments, capacity building, financial instruments, including for partners and beneficiaries. And for this, we have got to make full use of what we call an instrument that we have, managed by DG Reform, that is called the Technical Support Instrument, and all countries are using it. And it is, in fact, an instrument that strengthens focus on the regional and local levels, as well as on the capacity building of public administration at the central and at these less central levels. So we have to make sure also that the strong recovery and resilience facilities, so this stimulus to build back better, is implemented in a way that promotes the goals of cohesion as well, and the needs of the regions. Cohesion cannot be the work, as we said, of cohesion policy alone. We have got to work together in synergy, and this is another word that was very often mentioned. Third, let us build on what makes this policy unique: partnership and multi-level governance. A multi-level partnership is essential to bring together the different policy levels to reflect the local realities. Let's make people aware of the importance of cohesion and the work being done. This is obviously a plea to redouble our efforts in communication, but it is also a plea for better analysis and evaluation. We must show with solid facts that we are accountable and that we are using the investment opportunities wisely. And I think I'd like really to stress the project that was put online yesterday, exactly to commemorate this forum and the moment that we are sharing together. And this is this Cohesion. Cohesion is, in fact, the new online database of all cohesion policy projects that was launched, and it was launched exactly this week, as I mentioned, providing an excellent example of empowering people with the right information and allowing people to check for their own region what was done. So I invite you to keep it updated and to keep going there and checking what has been done, so that we also recognize other partners with whom we may want to establish cooperation. My fourth and final step: let us improve and increase the impact of the policy. The times are changing very, very fast, and the policy must cope with it, and must be kept solid, but at the same time dynamic to respond to these permanent challenges. We must decisively address tough questions. Why are some regions stuck in these convergence traps? What are the success factors for territorial growth strategies in the new green and the digital age? What are the success stories? There were some. Let's understand the details. How? Why? How to achieve flexibility? We all call for flexibility without endangering accountability, because it's taxpayers' money that we are managing. How must the policy adapt to face this uncertain future? Are we able to devise the future, to guess in which way we must be going? In certain broad aspects, yes, but when you go down to a region, to a locality, how can we organize ourselves? Such questions will set up cohesion for the 2030 period. We will launch a reflection group with academics and practitioners. We are trying to follow up on this event, and the purpose will be to draw the necessary lessons for the future, to be capable of doing this solid policy, but a dynamic policy at the same time, capable of improving permanently what can be improved. And for this, the exchange of experience and the exchange of methodologies over the last 2 days are probably the best takeaway from this forum. So I urge all of you to feed these reflections with solid data and analysis, solid experiences and solid evaluations, and please share them. So, in a nutshell, and to close down, these are our next steps. First, consolidate the strategic frameworks, finalize quality programs, update territorial development and sub-regional strategies, and develop a solid pipeline of projects. Second, deeper territorial thinking is needed, encouraging other instruments to open their eyes also to the crucial role of place and territory. Third, ascertain the key assets of the policy, multi-level governance and partnership, gather evidence and make the case for cohesion. And fourth, laying the groundwork for cohesion in the next period, including the period 2021-27. We are just starting to implement it, but thinking a little bit forward as well. But bringing together evidence and experience, in fact, to prepare and to implement the instruments that we have in our hands. More than ever, we need cohesion as a principle of European integration, cohesion as an enabler of the transitions that are necessary, and cohesion as a leveler to make sure that we can all move together. My thanks again to everybody who brought their thoughts, their examples, their experience, it was you that gave us such a depth in the debate. My thanks in particular to the speakers, chairs, moderators, for their preparation, their stimulating intervention, and my thanks to the interpreters that help us to speak with each other independent of the language that one speaks. Many thanks, allow me, to the organizing team. Hybrid events are a challenge, and I know, or you must know, that they have worked round the clock to make this happen. And my thanks also to the brilliant moderation of Jackie David. May I call for your applause? Cannot applaud, I think, now that I'm thanking all those who attended in person, or you can applaud yourselves. It makes a difference. I mean, screens are wonderful, but to have people in person is really a privilege. And thank you to all those that attended remotely, and I hope to see you all soon. And to everybody, I wish you and your loved ones good health, all the best, and let's go on working together. It was a privilege having the opportunity to listen to you, to speak to you. Let's go on and do it. Thank you very much.
Commissioner, thank you so much. And you began, Commissioner, by reminding us of those words of the Commission President this morning, that cohesion policy has long been the silent strength of the European Union. You gave that silent strength a voice today, as you do in your work every day. So thank you to you, and thank you to all our speakers, from me as well, for such great interventions. Thank you, interpreters. I know it's not easy when I moderate, because I make people cram things in. So I know I make your job more difficult. And again, thanks also from me to our amazing organising teams. I'm going to say behind the scenes, because literally, they are behind the scenes. So much work has gone into all of this, but most of all, again, from me as well, thank you to all of you. I wish you a very pleasant and a very safe weekend. Goodbye.